All right, y'all, we back. Welcome back for another episode of the A Better Me Equals a Better We podcast. I am your host, Trey. So excited to see you guys again for another week, episode 14. Today's topic is going to be boundaries. Yes, I'm gonna say it again, boundaries. Some people have some people don't have none. Some people don't know how to stay on their side of the fence. And we're gonna talk about all of that today. And I brought some special people along with me that I knew would really be able to speak to this topic. We do have another panelist who really wanted to be a part of this episode, but she had to work late, so we may see her in time coming. But these two will definitely do the job. So, Trina, why don't you introduce yourself to our viewers and tell them a little bit about yourself?
My name is Katrina. I'm a dancer, currently assistant program director, and I don't know, kind of new at my spiritual journey. I'm a kind person, and I'm here to show love to Trey as always.
Super dope. I'm gonna tell you guys like a real story about Trina. Like she said, always showing love, right? I literally thought of this topic, and I think I hit her like a few days before the episode even was like about it. She was like, "Up, got it," right? Not like, "Oh, I got this to do, I got that to do." So when she says she's showing love, she's serious, right? Jose, why don't you introduce yourself to our viewers and tell them a little bit about yourself?
How you guys doing? My name is Jose. This is my second time of having the honor of being on Trey's podcast. It's a beautiful thing you got going. A little bit about me. I'm Trey Kwan's other brother from another mother and father. Yeah, I have two kids, real big on family, and definitely, support Trey in any way, shape, form I can. So, yeah.
Nice.
Appreciate that. And they being modest, right? Like they making it all about me and how much they love me. And I appreciate that, right? But they ain't tell y'all how they really finna come and tell y'all about boundaries and what they look like and really give y'all the real, right? Like that's why we have repeat panelists, right? Because they brought something to the table. They brought the real. And now they're gonna bring the real again today, right? Like I always tell you guys, make sure you like the Facebook page, subscribe on YouTube. You're not gonna be able to find the video, right? Like, what if somebody you know doesn't share it? Like the page, right? So let's jump right into it, right? The book that we're referencing, or that I've read that kind of gave me the idea for this was a book called Boundaries, right? One of the things that I want to look at when we talk about boundaries is like, what does a boundary look like? Right. And in this book that I read, the author kind of described the boundary as like a property line, right? Or an invisible property line. So, Trina, I'll ask you, is it safe to say or safe to look at a boundary as an invisible property line?
You took exactly the words that I was going to say, because that's what I think a boundary is. It's an invisible line that you want to be very careful if you want to cross that line. And if you do cross it, I always say, well, it's kind of like that burn a bridge saying, like, if you burn bridges, you want to learn how to swim back, know how to swim back. So it's kind of like it goes along with that. Yeah, it's an invisible line for me. And I just feel like, respect it. Like I guess some people like to consider certain gray areas, but gray areas, they go past that line sometimes. So, it's very, very important that you know your limits.
Right. Definitely. So when we're looking at boundaries, right, I think personally that's a great way to look at it, right? Because your boundaries, are kind of like what's inside of your boundaries is like your safe space, right? Just
Right.
like your property when you come to your home, like that's your safe space, right? So
Right.
how important is it, Jose, that we know where our property or our boundaries, right, where our property begins and where it ends, right?
It's very important where you know your boundaries are, because boundaries are also tied to your emotions as well too. So if you don't have those boundaries, and when people overstep them, or if you don't place a boundary or make it clear, then you could kind of get into your feelings and it'll really affect you in the space that you're in. So to make sure that boundaries is what, to me, is basically what gives access to people to you. You know what I'm saying? So that's what the boundaries is, allowing access to you. And if you cross that boundary, then that's something that, should be established in all relationships and friendships, throughout every person you encounter. And it should be consistent. And I think often sometimes boundaries aren't consistent with everyone. And then that kind of can sometimes stem to other issues in other relationships.
Right.
I, I loved
Oh, go
everything.
ahead, Trina.
I love everything he just said. Is like that was it. Like that was
Right.
it.
Right. And knowing where it begins and where it ends, right? Because it's one thing to say like keep out, right? But then there's another thing to say like, all right, well, this is how much I can take, right? Like I can say like, all right, this is the line, but this is where I draw the line again. Like this is the beginning, this is the end. And another thing that I really love that you said was consistency, right? One day, if you say, listen, don't touch the milk in the refrigerator, right? Then you let them drink the milk in the refrigerator. And then the next day you like, don't touch the milk in the refrigerator, right? Like, how can you now be upset or try to exercise that boundary, right? When you're, I guess, for lack of a better term, giving mixed signals, right? So we got to make sure that when we draw that line to our property, ourselves being the property, right? When we draw that line, we got to be consistent, right? Like, got to be consistent. One of the other things that I really like when reading this book and it really opened up my mind was that the author gave an example of um, being responsible for your own property, right? And how sometimes if you're not responsible for your own property, borders of your property. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. When you're not responsible for the borders of your own property, sometimes you can wind up in somebody else's property, right? Like uncharted grounds when you're too busy worried about your lines and you're not worried about somebody else's. So um, is it each person's responsibility to guard the borders of their own property? Or is it, let's say, like the next person's responsibility to make sure that they're not overstepping anybody's boundaries? So what do you think about that, Trina?
I think that is your responsibility to protect your boundary. A lot of us, like he said, like Jose said, he said like these are like boundaries, and he said I forget exactly what he said, but you had just said it, Trey. But basically, like community agreements, like these are community agreements. Maybe like boundaries is a little bit too harsh or something like that, but as we get older, you got to practice that like rituals. Like you got to be consistent and be disciplined in this so that it comes like a second nature. I can honestly say like the older I get, I've gotten, like I feel like I'm more aware of the person who I am. Defining my boundaries has basically identify who I need and want in my life, my circle, the people that I surround myself around. Like if people can't respect that, then then just not, you guys are not gonna basically, like, you're not on the same frequency. You're not gonna grow to learn to respect one another because people are not taught. We're all taught different boundaries. We all grew up in different places, different backgrounds, different families all over. So certain stuff is not taught the way that it comes second nature to me, but it might not come second to somebody else. So
Yeah.
I think that so it's your responsibility to lay down that line. People can't read minds. We're not telepathic, So I just feel like you have to use your voice. You got to speak up.
Right, right. And I agree with that, right? I like that you said like, like I can't read your mind, right? I don't know what your boundaries are. Like I don't know what you've been taught, right? So that's why when we look at boundaries, yes, it is our job to set up that property line and say, this is my border, right? This is where it starts, this is where it ends, this is what you can do and what you can't do, right?
Right.
But it's our responsibility and not the other person's responsibility to guard the borders of our boundaries because I don't know what you've been taught, right? So what do you guys think about that, right? Like put your thoughts of that like in the comments. Like what do you think? Do you think is our responsibility? Is it situational, right? Like because I know, like Trina said with the gray area, right? People like to play the gray area game, like in a certain situation, it applies, it doesn't apply, right? So what do you guys think about that? Another thing that I look at, like just going into what Trina said about like how you were raised, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I notice is a lot of times when you see people that may lack a sense of boundaries or may lack a sense of like no, right? A lot of it stems from childhood. Um,
Oh yeah.
and and Jose, I'll ask you this question. Can abuse at a young age like reverse the ideas of boundaries and make somebody maybe like hold in all of the bad inside of their boundaries, but keep out, all of the good stuff that's trying to come in?
Yeah, I believe it. That plays a role in your upbringing. If you were raised a certain way, then that could definitely change your boundaries and how you may decide to set your boundaries as you get older, because of the things you may saw growing up or the people around you of how they set their boundaries. Parents, siblings, whoever were involved raising you in your upbringing. So that definitely can affect that. I know for me growing up, I looked at my sisters and my mom, and I always see the boundaries they set. And as I got older, I kind of, set my boundaries the same way. But
Mm-hmm.
something that I want to touch on too, with upbringing as well, is boundaries have to be consistent. And sometimes we're not consistent with family, friends, and coworkers. So you could have different boundaries set from different things, due to your upbringing, because we sometimes kind of dismiss it as, oh, that's family, and I believe Nat, she put in the comments, it goes hand in hand with respect, and I
Yes.
believe that's the same thing. So, sometimes we let people cross over our boundaries because they're family, because they're friends, and that can also bring an issue into your life if you're not being consistent with your boundaries, and then it ultimately causes you problems and you issues, and you may get upset or have all these feelings because at the end of the day, you're not the one protecting your borders because you're not being consistent with your boundaries.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I can't wait to. I don't want to. You guys know I don't really like to like throw it all in at one time. I like to like spread the conversation out so we can go in depth. So we're definitely gonna touch back on that. And I can't wait to see what both of you guys have to say about when we get a little deeper in it. So I'm like everything that y'all saying, y'all getting me excited. I'm telling y'all, they was made for this conversation, right? Share the video. We need your comments. I want to hear what everybody has to say about this. So when we talk about the upbringing, ways that it can reverse your boundaries and stuff like that, right? Um, One of the things that the author talks about, and one of the things that we even talked about in things I wish I'd known before I had a child, or before I was a parent, is teaching your kids sort of like different types of respect, right? Teaching them, where the line is, and talking to them a certain type of way, right? And one of the ways that relate is like Natalie said in the comments, respect and boundaries kind of go hand in hand, right? So, what are some good ways, Trina, that we can teach our children or our youth? Whether it's your child or niece, nephew, or someone you work with, if you work with kids, what are some ways that we can teach our children or our youth healthy boundaries?
For me, I was interested in the fact that you asked me that because I'm doing a psychology class for summer. So I'm starting to learn the difference between a punishment and a reinforcement. So for me, like now that I know, I'm aware, like I feel like me coming up, I had a very traumatic childhood. Uh, and then you just watch like the generations now, like people not beating their kids, and it's like, I'm not saying that you should, but like there should have been some kind of um some kind of system set up for our parents to figure out, but now it's just like passed on to us. So now it's like we gotta learn to break those cycles, or we're gonna pass it on to the next kid. So it's like you don't want to tell your kids no, because you want to be able to give your kids everything we wasn't able to give. You want to be able to give them lives that you didn't have, but it's like, how do you do that without them learning the boundaries? And my thing is, for kids and as well for adults, boundaries can easily fall into you taking advantage, and that's just what it is. Like, people need to know that there are boundaries, and once you cross it, it's taking advantage. Like when you have kids, you gotta raise them with some kind of, like, you gotta raise them better than how you are upbringing. Like for me, like I work with kids. I've been working with kids for 5 years, and like I honestly, this is how I found my career. I find that kids are not kids anymore because they're looking at the adult, so they don't really have that outlet to be themselves. So they kid parents are just getting like, I can't even say, like, they're just like lagging now. They're not really, you know, picking up. And now all these bad habits, these kids turn 16, 17, 18, they got babies, you know, didn't finish school. It's just kind of like, you got to reinforce and like certain boundaries. You don't want to tell your kid no, but certain times, like, make it a life lesson. That's how like embedded in like it is for me, because I had parents that like really embedded it like in me. Like, it was traumatic, but like, I guess like for me to really learn it, I guess I've got to learn the difference between, like, you know, reinforcing, positive reinforcement. That's what I wanted to get at. Positive reinforcement. You got to learn. You have to learn you teach kids this, and we got better adults in the world today. And I feel like a lot of us did not get those lessons. So now we got kids, and now they like, we all damn the hell. I always say Little Nicky, the world is going Little Nicky. If you ever see that movie with Adam Sandler, please watch that movie, because it's funny, but it's fun. This is right. Like, you got kids, they can't have regular parties no more because they want to get turned up, want to be smoking. Like, oh, boundaries. You was doing that at home, and you do that at home with your kids, and now he think that that's okay to do around. Like, that's a normal. It's normal now. It's like a normalized behavior.
I'm telling you,
it's bad. Like, I don't know.
I agree with a lot of that, right? And the one thing that I like about everything that you just said is you can tell that it comes from a place of passion, right? That you really care. And I think that that's one of the things that we're kind of lacking in this generation as of parents. Not well, I ain't gonna talk about the generations on top of us, but me being a parent, me being in my 30s, and under that, I think one of the things that we're lacking is, I think as a whole, you'll see a lot of parents who just kind of just, I don't want to say don't care, but it doesn't really look like it, right? And then they allow their children to feel like they're equal, that they can say whatever they want to them, do the same things that they do. And I think that for me, when my parents, they had a saying, and I think probably all parents who, you know, all people who had parents in my generation, they probably heard once or twice or a million times, stay in the child's place, right? And even though that wasn't the best way to say it, or some people may have taken offense to that, what that was for me, how I took it growing up, is this is the line, don't cross it, right? This is the line, don't cross it. And I think we have to figure out ways where we can set that line, and in love, right? That's one of the things that I really wanted to get to, is that to set these lines with our children, but set it in love, right? We don't have to say it in a way where they feel like less than, or they feel like I'm not anything until I'm adult. But we have to be able to say, this is the line, you know, this is where you are, this is where I am, and we're not the same. And then also, on the flip side, how they deal with other people, right? This is the line, you know, that people should not cross. You know, your personal space. I know Yolanda said that in our comments, like, you know, not allowing people in their personal space. So that's definitely, you know, all good stuff, right? When it comes to the kids. One of the things, right, when we look at kids and we look at grown kids, right, because we're in the generation of grown kids, and there was an analogy or illustration given, right, where it said that a family came to a therapist and they were saying like, yo, I don't know what's going on with my son. We pay for his tuition. Every time he fail out of school, we pay to put him in another school. We pay for him to live. We pay for him to eat. Like, I don't understand. We're doing everything we can to make sure that he gets this education, that he has everything that he needs, and he just keeps failing. Like, he keeps failing. And then the therapist said to the family, well, I don't think the kid has the problem. You guys have the problem, right? And they just like, they looking crazy. Like, what do you mean? And he explained to them that you guys didn't set proper boundaries, and you guys didn't allow for any repercussions for what he did. So it's kind of like you guys have a lawn with your boundaries, he has a lawn for his boundaries, and every time y'all watering his lawn, and every time he come outside, his lawn is watered. So he don't feel no reason to have to water his grass or basically do anything for himself, because y'all do it for him. And then the whole time, y'all grass is dying, right? So, Jose, I'll ask you this question. The term, I'm responsible for my own lawn, not my neighbor's lawn. What does this mean to you?
I mean, what it means to me is that you're responsible for setting your boundaries and allowing people into your life, right? Allowing access to you. And the same thing with your, so example, like a lawn, right? You're responsible for your lawn. You want to make sure that, you know, you're not relying or depending on anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, people aren't psychic. I don't know what people are thinking, right? So you can't expect someone to take care of or respect something that's yours if you're not taking care of it. So if my lawn, I'm not taking care of it, the next person may say, Jose's not taking care of this. Why should I care? Right? If I walk past your lawn and it doesn't look good and the neighbors looks good, why would I care? Right? So you're at the end of the day, you're responsible. I believe you're responsible for everything in your life that you can control. Right? So if that's your lawn, these are your boundaries. You have to set those boundaries and you have to be consistent, right? You got to take care of that and make sure that you're sticking by your boundaries every day, because if you have a slip up, no one's gonna come and take care of that. No one's gonna come and reset those boundaries. No one's gonna come and do something that you're not allowing them to do, right? So if you're allowing someone to do something, that's because you're not being consistent with your boundaries.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and that's what it means to me.
Mm-hmm.
And consistency, that word just keeps coming up, right? Consistency is key, right? Even when it comes to watering grass, right? I can't go outside and water my grass one day, and then come
Consistent.
back in the middle of the summer and expect it still to be there, right? Like, consistency is key in anything that we do, right? There's a term that I read, and I'm running past you, Trina. We are responsible to others, um, and for ourselves. What does this mean to you?
We're responsible to others and for ourselves. Hmm. It sounds like a play on place. Like sounds tricky to answer, but I mean, um, I guess when I think of it, when I hear it, I guess I get in my head, I get do unto others the same way you would want them to do unto you. Um, yeah, like we are responsible for like the way we make others feel, but then we are responsible maybe for how we reflect. Like I don't know. That's really I got to think about that one though, Trey. That was a good thought.
Okay.
Though.
So so when I look at that, right?
I'm gonna get two thought and word. I mean, lost in what's the name?
Yeah. Yeah, when I look at that, I'll give you a little something to go off of, right? When I look at that and I talk and I think about being responsible to others, um, a lot of things that we do in life, or as a matter of fact, now that I think about it, everything that we do in life, right? I don't care what job that you have,
Mm-hmm.
the object of your job is to serve another person, right? If you're a garbage man, you're picking up somebody else's garbage. If you're a telephone rep, you're answering somebody's problem, right? If you're an instructor in any field, right, you're teaching somebody how to do something, right? So I think that one thing that we can all see, or maybe we don't see, like as human beings, is we have a responsibility to each other, in whatever field that we're in, or whatever it is that we do, whatever our specialty is, to help the person next to us. But we're also not responsible for that person, right? So if I give you something, I'm not responsible for you. Like if you take it, if you don't take it, I can help you. I can help you with your bills 1 month, right? But
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't mean I'm responsible for paying your rent for the next year, right? And that's where the boundary, comes in at,
All right.
right? Like that's
No, go.
that's how I look at it, right?
Yes. I love
We
you
have
for
to be able to set that line and say, I can be responsible to you, and be able to help each one teach one, that whole thing, right? Like I can be responsible to you, and do my duty as a human being to help you and to see you do well and help you do better. But where my line cuts off, and this is me personally, where my line cuts off is when I got to be responsible for you.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can't, like I said, with the whole bill and rent thing, I can't pay your bills the whole year. Like I can't pay your rent the whole year. So that's sort of how I look at it. Now, for
I,
me,
I love that you said that, yo. Got my mind thinking now. Go, go, go.
yeah, but for me, I'm responsible for me. Now, the bills, the rent,
Mm-hmm.
that's all me. Like that's what I'm responsible for. So when I look at that, that's sort of how, how I look at, that particular quote. So Trina, I'll ask you this question. Do you think, now that we're talking about being responsible to people, but you're ultimately responsible for yourself, do you think that boundary lines should be permeable enough to allow people to pass through, but strong enough to keep out danger?
Oh yes, I can agree with that. I can agree with it because it depends on the person. I mean, I guess it depends on the relationship that you have with that person. Like, but if this person is not going, like, if your boundaries is not the person or whatever action it is that's going to cause you to, like, cause you danger. I would think that you would, like, you would know that this kind of situation is a death, like something that you want to cut off. You
Right.
don't get involved in that. I feel like depending on the relationship, again, like, you have to define it. Once, if you have a strong enough can I say foundation? Yeah, like a set of, like, disciplined boundaries for yourself, or agreements, whatever you want to call it, then I feel like that's up to you. But as long as you don't make it a constant thing, because once again, when you let down that window, like, it's kind of like letting your guard down, and, like, you don't want to let that keep sliding too many times. Like, you offer the person a snack and then they go eat the whole kitchen. Like, it's kind of like that. So, you just want to be mindful of that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Right, right. It's like it's getting hot outside, right? It's like the bugs outside, right? I gotta let the screen down so the air could get
Good
through,
point.
but that'll mean I'm gonna
I didn't
open
leave
the
my window
doors
open all night. Yeah, yeah, because yeah,
so the
yeah,
whole ecosystem could come in, right?
right, yeah.
So now that we've really like talked about like what boundaries look like, right? Defining boundaries, talked about kids, the property line and all of that other stuff. This is where I think it get a little juicy for me, right? And I think a lot of people have issues in this is boundary conflicts, right? Like I don't care what rule it is, there's always conflicts to enforce it. And especially for people who have been in positions of leadership, if you ever supervised anything, watched anyone, the hardest part is not, telling the kid that they can't have the snack. The hardest part is when they start falling out and, you got to enforce that no, right? And it's the same thing with boundaries, right? Like,
Mhm.
enforcing that property line is not always as easy as, all right, that's, sometimes it comes with a little bit more than that. So, Jose, I'll ask you this. How important is it that we first learn to say no?
It's very important. And when you first asked me to do this, I immediately was like, yeah, because I'm gonna be honest. I myself, growing up, I suffered with the issue of saying no, because I felt
Mhm.
like if I was able to do something, or allow someone to do something, I'd be okay. I'm like, oh, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay.
Mhm.
So it took me till now, till later on in my life, to realize that it's not okay. It's okay to say no.
Yeah,
I guess maybe my fear was that if I say no, the person would react a certain way,
Mhm.
or wouldn't like me, or wouldn't care, or wouldn't think that I genuinely wanted to help. But that's not the case. You're not responsible for everyone. You're not responsible for everyone's issues. Like you said, you can help someone, pay their bills, but I can't pay your rent for the whole year.
Mhm.
So I think for me growing up, that's something that I had to learn, was to say no, because I always made myself available and ready to any and everyone who I felt like I could be there for. And in the
yeah,
end, it cost me my own. I compromised who I was and compromised my feelings because of just simply saying no. And sometimes when you say no, it doesn't make you a bad guy, it doesn't make you a bad woman, it doesn't make you a bad person. Sometimes no is just no. And also sometimes if you can't, you can't. You don't have to owe everyone an explanation on as to why you're saying no. That's the biggest thing
Oh
too.
my God. Yes.
So it's just and if your boundaries are consistent, then the person you're saying no should know that and respect that. But again, it's going back
yeah,
to taking care of your own lawn. If you're not consistent with your boundaries, then of course the other person is going to have mixed emotions and feelings, because it's like, wait, hold on, you allow me to do this and that, and now all of a sudden it's like, whoa. And then that's when people are going to feel like you're changing or you're different, or, you know, whatever it is that whatever narrative they want to paint about you. But in reality, you were just afraid to say no because you wanted to be a good friend, a good brother, a good sister, a good mother, a good aunt, whatever it is. And, you know, for me, that's something that I really, really had to learn to deal with.
Telling you, and I think a lot of people go through that, whether it's in your early years, your later years. It's something that you have to learn in some way, shape, or form. And I think we all kind of go through that, right? Natalie said in our comments, like if you start letting people slide, then they think it's electric, right? Um, and you know, and it's true, right? We can't you know, let everybody slide. We can't let everybody through those boundary fences. And you know, Christina said in our comments, you know, saying no can be hard, but it's totally okay to say no, right? And having people like that, right, that are around you that can reinforce that and say like, yo, like it's okay to say no, right? Even when we look at our kids, right? Like when we tell our kids like, oh, well, this person wanted my lunch money. Bro, you could say no. Like it's okay to say no. Like be that positive influence to say like it's okay to say no. Natalie also said in our comments, saying no with no explanation is the goal. Being comfortable with saying no, right? So you guys are really hitting it on the head in our comments. And Yolanda said in our comments, conflicts come, but you must fortify your boundaries, or else you teach people to not take you serious. Right. So every time you allow people in, every time you allow them to do, you know, whatever it is that they want to do, they just gonna keep doing it because now they're gonna feel like I might catch you on a good day, and you know you might let me do it, right? It's electric. So
Can I add on to something, Trey?
oh yeah, please go
I
ahead,
want
Trina.
to say that you have to value yourself. You have to, as I'm older now, because like Jose said, I was one of those. Oh my God, can I tell you? Like I literally grew out of it probably like mid-20s. Like always having to explain myself. Like because oh yeah, but you know I'll try to get there, and like I would just always just explanation after explanation, feeling bad because you know I'm like, can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I always just like felt bad. Like I'm just like, oh my God, this person's gonna stop hanging out with me. And it's like I don't think I valued myself. I didn't know who I was. I didn't understand the person that I was trying to be, what I wanted to do. And I felt like once I started to value my time and my space for myself, I started to like redefine who I was. Like I feel like you have to value yourself. Like if you don't value yourself, you always available for everybody's time, always here, they're ready to jump up and just nobody. You always for to go. Like when do you have time to sit down and think about what you doing? Like I was one of those people. Like everything that I wanted to do, I already had it planned, but I wasn't putting no real action to it. I wasn't surrounding myself around those kind of people. So now it's like, yo, I'm gonna sit down. You're gonna keep doing what you was doing 5 years, 10 years from now, earlier from what we was doing, like, and I'm gonna move up. Like, if people are not on that kind of mindset, then you don't value yourself. And that ain't for me to say, but that's for you to just reflect on one day, and hopefully that they grow to understand how valuable they are. Like that's very, very imperative. You gotta value
definitely.
yourself.
So let me ask you this, Trina. Can the inability to say no stem from a fear of abandonment?
Yes. First of all, I am a twin. I came into this world with somebody. So it was like at a point, like, I didn't even want to do nothing if my sisters or my friends not around. It's like, I'm going to just stay in the house and be, like, annoyed. Like, now I can kind of tell myself, oh, no, I'm going home. Oh, no, I'm not doing that. No, I'm not. I'm not, because I am content with who I want to be, where I'm going. I'm not missing out on nothing. Like, and that's the thing with this generation too, is the fear of missing out, that FOMO. Like, I'm not missing out on nothing. You understand what I'm saying? There ain't nothing that I did not do. There ain't nothing that I can't do. It's just, this is what I'm doing. I'm doing me. I'm on my time. So I'm not on your time. So if you don't respect that, then you don't respect me. So I'll see you when I see you. And my thing is, it's never no love lost. It's just more so like, yo, this is what it is. Like, I gotta get this going for myself because I'm the only one person I'm the only person that can see these stairs. You can't. You understand? Like, what they say, like, you wasn't in that room when God was sitting there planning with you. Like, you wasn't. You don't know what I sit down in my sacred time and do, like a sit down. You don't know. And that's why I started respecting other people's time. Like, I'm always, if they tell me, no, look, they got this going on, I don't take nothing personal. You got to understand, like, once you value yourself, you start to think different. You don't take nothing personal. You be like, nah, respect it. Get it. Boom. You're not taking everything personal. You don't got much. You too busy trying to give your energy, trying to be too available. You don't got nothing to get to yourself. So now you can't even take your own lonesome. You just got to be around people. Not me. I'm good. I'm on a higher level, mentally, physically, and that's just spiritually. Like, I think I think it's a beautiful thing. I feel like people should get more in tune with who they are. Be okay with yourself.
Yeah.
It is. It really is. But hopefully people grow out of it. But you got people 50 years old, 40 years old, like never had their own nothing, like still mad about 30 years. It's like they stuck. I don't want to be that. You gotta want to be better.
Right, definitely. And being comfortable in your own skin, like you said, like being able to say, okay, this is what's going on, right? That fear of abandonment, like, if I don't do this, then they not gonna talk to me no more. If I don't do this, then everybody gonna look at me funny. And then, like you said, like being able to say, like, all right, that's cool, I'm good over here, right? Like, you gotta be okay with your own company.
I still love you. You be good. Like, if it's gonna be static,
right? Like,
you a little staticky.
We cool. Hop
over there. Woo,
all right.
Reading bad, energy. Just read it. Oh man, okay, no love. Boom, got no problem. We ain't got time for all that extra stuff. We be trying to go up. Be adults.
And now looking at that idea of abandonment, right? Like, I feel like that can stem from being the only little kid left at the jungle gym, right? Kids can be cruel, kids can be mean, right? Like, and they may feel the need to, because it might be contrary to popular belief in this generation, right? Because everybody like, F everybody, I don't need nobody, I don't need this. But we weren't created to be alone, right? Like, we absolutely not. And this is not even just in the sense of man, woman, or woman, or this is not even in an intimate setting, just in general. We were not created to be alone, right? So it's something in us yearns for community, right? So we can't fault our kids for wanting to be friends with everybody or wanting to be around all the kids, right? But what happens if your child exercises their boundaries and then all the little kids walk to the other side of the playground and they're by themselves, right? And they don't understand, all right, I'm good by myself. Let me just get these blocks and these toys, right? So, Jose, as a parent, how important is it that we exercise boundary development with our children?
It's very important. And I believe, I want to say it was Yolanda who said something earlier in the chat that resonated with me. And she said, you shouldn't force your kid to give a hug to a family member or something along those lines. I'm sorry if I misquoted you. But I agree with that. Those are boundaries. You have to let kids set their own boundaries and then let them be comfortable and set boundaries for them. So often when a kid is leaving, let's say a family gathering, we'll also say, give them a hug, give them a hug, give them a kiss. And the kid doesn't want to do it. I believe we shouldn't force that because that child is putting up their own boundary, right? They don't want to give a hug. Whether they're angry, sad, they just feel like they don't want to do it. And by doing so, I feel like if we create that habit of going to do it, now when they go and they be around other kids, they may want to follow other kids' boundaries. And now they're not setting their own boundaries because they want to be attached to whatever the other child or kids are doing. Maybe they want to play. So I believe it's very important that you allow them to create their boundaries and that we set boundaries for them to let them know that it's okay. It's okay, sometimes my son and my daughter don't want to play with each other, but I have to let them know, like, there's other things you could do, right? Joseph and Jamie may not want to play with each other, but it's okay, Joseph. You could go play with your toys. Jamie, it's okay. You can go paint. You can do something. You can find something else and just encourage them to explore what is it that they like doing when they're alone and they're comfortable. Because now when my daughter doesn't want to play with my son, she'll go and she'll draw pictures, she'll color. So now she's comfortable and saying, okay, you know what? Joseph doesn't want to play with me. She doesn't feel bad. She's going to go and do her own thing. So I feel like those things tie hand in hand. We're letting them create their boundaries and then also letting them know boundaries as well.
All right. And I love that. Like, and one of the things that I really loved about everything that you said is the idea of giving the kids different options, right? It's not like it's like, oh, this person don't want to play with you. I've seen people that was like, oh, this person don't want to buy you this. Don't worry, I'm gonna get it times 10. Or this person don't want to, play with you. Don't worry, that's fine. That's they
Yeah.
look like. No, don't in love, right? We got to learn how to exercise our boundaries in love, right? And then also give them different options. That's a form of boundary development because now the idea is not that I have to be here, I have to do this. The idea is that, okay, if this doesn't work, then I can do this. If that doesn't work, then I can do that. And that's also a form of problem solving, right? So if
Well,
you're a parent, this is not to say, and I always say this, like everything that we say on the podcast, that the panelists say on the podcast, it's not to say that it's law, right? But it's just to give you a different idea that you may not have thought of, right? Or a different perspective on how, like, maybe you may not have looked at it this way. Andre said in our comments, but never be scared to be alone. If you don't love you, who's gonna love you, right? And what I love about that is that when you think about it that way, it's not to say that no one else loves you, but you got to do it first, right? It's not to say that there isn't a personal trainer out there or a dietitian out there or anything that you may need to help you level up, but there's something inside of you. Like it has to happen. You have to make the decision with inside of you first. So it all starts with us. And Yolanda said in our comments, and please teach your children to even set boundaries with you as the parent. That's hard and uncomfortable, but if they can have boundaries with you, then everybody else will not be hard, right? And that's a fine line, right? That's not to say that your child is able to say, "Daddy, I ain't taking the trash out today," right? That's not, that's not a boundary, right? But like Yolanda said, like small steps, baby steps. It doesn't have to be the biggest, thing in the world, but allow your children to have boundaries with you. So, now with other people, it'll be that much easier. Trey said in our comments, being alone don't mean that you're lonely, right? So just because I'm by myself, that don't mean I'm lonely,
Mm-hmm.
right? So definitely. And Devon said in our comments, Davon, I'm sorry, said in our comments, boundaries keep everyone safe and protected, right? And it may not be physical harm, right? But it might be mental harm, right? It might be emotional harm, right? It keeps us all safe and protected. And this is why we set these boundaries up. So Trina, I'll give you a quote, and I'll ask you true or false. You must discover who you aren't so that you can discover who you are. Is this true?
true, true. That's how I'm. That's who I am. That's how I am the person that I am now because I knew that certain things like being like I felt like I was a yes person. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Like one of my friends' mothers had to like literally tell me like, "Yo, get out of the habit of saying you're sorry." Like, what are you sorry for? I'm like, I don't know. It was like really like it was bad. Like I wasn't that person. Like, but I was just I don't know. I felt like people. I was so not comfortable with myself that people made me uncomfortable, and that's when I developed like anxiety, a whole bunch of stuff that like I never even thought I had. Like I'm like, what anxiety? Like panic? What are you talking
Yeah,
about? It's certain things that I did not settle with myself because I was just I was being somebody I wasn't. I wasn't comfortable with who I was. So I mean, I didn't like that. I was always anxious, always overwhelmed, always worrying. I couldn't even like, and if I did enjoy myself, like it would be like for a moment. But as soon as I was uncomfortable, like it was just like I'm just like out of it mentally. And you have to discover who you aren't so that you know who you are. Like for
right.
real. That's just
I,
that's the realest you
I
can.
agree with that. I agree with that. It's easy to say, all right, I like this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do
Right.
this. But what if you're somewhere and you like, you know what, I really don't like this? Like, how many times at a younger age have you been at a party or in a particular setting because maybe you like a person that's there? Maybe you
Right.
with, old girl from down the block, but she likes to hang out and uncomfortable. It's like, all right, it's cool because I'm here, but the scene is just not quite me, right? So being able to say, you know what, I'm having fun with you, but this
Here.
isn't me, right? being able to step out of that is definitely key, right?
Mhm.
Devon asked in our comments, Jose, and I'll direct this towards you. Um, at what age should children, or what age should children start setting boundaries?
For me, it depends on. For me, both my kids, I'll probably say as soon as they were able to comprehend what I was telling them, right? And I told them at a young age. So I want to say 1, maybe 2 years old,
Mhm.
with my son and with my daughter, letting them know like this is not okay. If someone does this, and just letting them know. And if they understood what I was saying, like, hey, like this is something that you should let someone do to you, or someone touch you, or if a kid is bullying you, or so I told them at a young age, as soon as they was able to comprehend and speak, I let them know right away like what their boundaries were. Like, if another child does something to you, or for an adult, if you feel uncomfortable, you always tell mom, you tell dad, don't let no one touch you unless it's your mom or your dad. So from a young age, I told my kids, and my kids now, they know because I told them from a young age. As soon as they were able to speak and comprehend, I kind of let that know the boundaries of what they should feel comfortable and not comfortable with. If they feel anything comfortable with anything, to kind of let their parents know right away. So that was something that we really instilled in. If you feel uncomfortable about something, come tell mommy and daddy.
Mhm.
And that was
Yeah,
my biggest thing as a parent and teaching my kids.
right, right. Um,
I wanted.
I definitely, yeah, go ahead, chime in on that.
I wanted to add the younger that you do start being, because as like I said, I'm taking this class, but like I feel like they make a lot of sense. Again, out there, the kids, our first 7 years, like as kids, so like you get your most, like what is the, I forget the terminology that they use, but you basically absorb like most of your morality and principles in your first 7 years of life. So when you start young, like you ever seen I don't know if you ever seen those commercials when it was like a commercial when they had babies reading at like 4 months, 6 months, like they will show the pictures and the baby will like like with their eyes or with their hand grab with the apple and the cat is. When you start that kind of like discipline, like that kind, you open them to that. That's how kids learn how to speak the 7 different languages when they're that young. That's how they're able to start doing broad things when they that young, because you're exposing them to that kind of stuff. Like the mind is most absorbed in between 1 and 7. So you want to embed that as early as possible. So I love that you did that in 1, because I've been hearing it probably since the day my father put me out. So that's how I know. That's how I know for a fact. And that's why I'm be so passionate, because it's like, yo, that's not right. But people don't understand it. You can't knock it. We all got the same mind. So that's it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I like how, I like the idea one of starting young, right? So I definitely agree with the both of you guys. Like we gotta start as young as possible. Like if you don't like this, don't touch me here. Don't come too close. Don't pull on me. Little
Mm-hmm.
things like that is like boundaries, and we have to make sure that we allow our children to feel free enough. And even if you're not a parent, right? If there's a child around you, like it really does take a village. Like if you watch someone else's kid, like you're responsible, to be sure that like they're learning what it is they need to learn. They're not being taken advantage of. At least if I let somebody watch my kid, and my mind as a parent, I'm expecting for you to care for my child as you would for your own. So things like boundaries and being able to say like, no, and all right, don't let this person do this to you. So that's like really important. One of the things that I think about when I think about boundaries is like when someone oversteps boundaries, people usually get like really upset, maybe really sad, or just negative emotions at times, right? When your boundaries are overstepped. And how I look at negative emotions now after reading this book, and thinking more into it is negative feelings when it comes to boundaries are actually good, right? Because they're sort of like the alarm system and for our property that lets us know like something is going on, right? So even when we talk to our kids and they get upset because a kid pushed them in the playground, um, being able to talk to them and let them know like, okay, these emotions are okay, right? This is just letting you know that you didn't like this, you weren't okay with this, and this is how we can kind of go forward with this, right? So when we talk about developing healthy boundaries, right? um I want to ask you guys a question. This might be a little mixy, right? But how important is it that there are consequences for people breaching our boundaries, Trina?
You said how important is it? I feel like it's imperative. It's germane to the predicament. Like you people, you what is it? You I think it's a deep. Like you kind of like you stagnate your growth when you allow these people to continuously keep doing it to you. It's like you're not growing. It's like they're stunting your growth. That's what I want. Like you docile. They trying to have you docile, and then it's like it's a whole bunch of other things that come into play. It's like manipulation, taking advantage. It's like it's now all these other windows is opening up, and now what could have been like contained is just like very chaotic and toxic. Now,
Yeah.
like it's like it just like I feel like we're gonna have a conversation about it, maybe 3 times. You know that saying, 3 times you out. You understand? And then like, if it really got to come to a point, we got to really kumbaya again. All right, but don't let that happen again. But like I said, it depends on the relationship and the people because certain people just burn their bridges a lot faster than other people. I don't know. Like they're not in that, they're not receiving that message. Like, and that's another thing. If you're not receiving what I'm saying, it's going to one day after the other. You thinking I'm just lecturing on you. You thinking I'm just barking on you. Are you taking the message? Like, are you aware of what you did to me that made me feel this way? Like I don't think, and I think people like don't sit down and think like that. Like it's just she always bugging, she always barking on people, and it's like. There's plenty of times I could have, like several other times I could have said something, but I'm holding it down, and it's a lot. So yeah, I feel like don't make that a habit. Keep letting it slide. It's gonna stagnate your growth, and it's gonna keep draining. Like arguing, giving people getting there, like that take a lot out of you. Arguing, I would know. Like I used to be always ripping somebody's head off, but this is kind of like. Yo, I really don't have time for that. Now I'm only putting that time in for people that that I really love, and even then I'm not trying to be going there with them. It's like
Right.
don't open that doorway, and if you are, shut it down and reestablish it again if it's worth it.
Right. So I wanna ask you guys both this question, but before I do that, I definitely want to say that being able to set those consequences and like Trina said, like it's really imperative. Like it's like super imperative to be able to do that because like she said, at the end of the day, it also depends on the person where it's to say, okay, you all right, let's talk about it again. Let's talk about it again. And then you got some people that just burn bridges, right? But you as the gatekeeper to your property, to your boundaries, you set the law. You are the law of the land, right? And you do what's best for you in order to protect your property, in order to protect your boundaries, your sanity, your emotional health, whatever it is, right? I got a question before we head out that I want to ask both of you guys, right? And I also want everybody watching in the comments to put what you guys think, right? So Jose, I'll start with you. Do you think that it's appropriate to have boundaries with your significant other?
Yes,
Mhm.
I think so. I think boundaries, again, it's the word consistency. No one should be excluded from your boundaries because it's your self peace, it's your self, your self of mind, your ease of mind. Definitely should be boundaries for everyone, and that's again, if you're not consistent with those boundaries, and that's going to cause yourself issues. There's boundaries that have to be established, especially with our significant other. And it should be respected. It goes both ways. Whatever boundaries they set or I set should be respected, and they shouldn't be crossed. I feel like because I'm somebody's significant other, or I have a significant other, they could cross that boundary because of that. You have to be consistent. You have to be consistent because once you start letting gray areas here and there, then you just lose control of your boundaries. You lose control of yourself. You lose control of your how people can access you. So I think it's very, very important to have boundaries. And it's not bad. Boundaries shouldn't be looked at as something that's bad, negative. It should be looked at as something that is actually respectful if someone has boundaries, because that means they care about themselves. I'm not going to let someone do whatever and whenever they want to me whenever they want. It's about having self-respect. So absolutely, I think boundaries should be set.
Yes.
And what do you think about that, Trina?
I loved it. I loved it. Yes, boundaries for significant others. There's nothing wrong with that. I feel like if you don't establish boundaries like with your significant other, um, I don't feel like it can't be as tight as it. You can't really I can't really get to your full potential. For one,
Yeah.
if yeah, boundaries have to be like expressed. Like sometimes, like you may not you love this person, but I posted it today. Can I read it? But
Oh yeah, please.
real fast because we gotta go. But today I had posted. Okay, I want us to be together as long as it's healthy for both of us. Instead of I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Like as long as it's healthy for both of us, we good. We growing. The when we have our little arguments, we work it out. We talk about it. We get through it. The thing is with boundaries, sometimes where it can get a little stagnant is like people are not comfortable of talking about certain things because of we come from our different past relationships or situations. We're just different. You can't operate with me the same way you operate with this person, and if you may try and I may not like it, and I have that right, so it's all about getting a real reestablishing. You with the person that you love. This is the person that you love. You gotta learn. You gotta learn to love them for everything. You gotta learn to grow with them. You should love their mind. So there's nothing that should really get offended. Like yes, things may get in a heated debate, but you're supposed to love that mind. You're supposed to love them all in and out. So you take all of that. So yes, you take my boundaries. Sometimes this could
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
like you doing this. It literally you can find yourself. You can find yourself a life partner when you have the established boundary with your significant other, and that's how important that is. Like
Yeah, and to be completely honest with you guys, I agree 110%. Because I think a lot of the times especially when people get married, you see one party trying to change the other party in some cases, and it's like, oh well, we together now, so this boundary that you had don't apply to me, or you can't do that, or whatever the case may be. And like you guys both said, like it shows self-respect. It shows like, listen, this is what I'm willing to take, this is what I'm not willing to take. And if we're gonna be together, this is a part of that, right? So Devon asked in our comments, and in the essence of time, I'll ask each of you guys to give one. What are those boundaries? What can we have an example from the panelists? So what kind of boundaries or do you guys think are normal boundaries to have with your significant other?
For me, I would say outside time. Like when me and my girlfriend are apart, like I give her time with her boys. You understand? I'm not gonna be everywhere, but you not. First of one, she'll quick to tell me, "Oh no, you do your thing with your girls." Yeah, oh her. Okay, I don't want to be all in her space. I want to have free time, have fun. Like honestly, I want you to miss me first off. One, like, and that's another thing. When you are always with each other, you're not giving each other time. Like you get on each other's nerves. Like boy, go ahead. Like sometimes you working my nerve. I could go 2 hour or two. To damn.
Right.
Because I need that. We constantly on each other's neck. It's not good for nobody. It's really not. Like it's destruction.
Yeah.
We two females. I'm working. That's my first girlfriend. It's stressful. And this is my first real relationship. So I mean, you have to be able to establish. I gotta establish her boundaries as well. So we run out of time. Go ahead, Jose. Shoot, I'm sorry.
No, this is great. For myself, it's probably going to be communication. Communicate to me. I don't like being put in an uncomfortable position without knowing. Communicate it to me. And, what I mean by that is if there's something going on or something, or it could be whatever. Just communicate it to me. I don't like being caught off guard. Those are one of my boundaries that I set. I try to stand on. Like just let me know. Communication is very big, especially in a relationship, because if you're not communicating, then you don't know what's going on. So that's just my biggest thing. Like one of my boundaries is just communicate. I don't like being put in a situation that I'm not aware of, or being blindsided. And then sometimes if it happens, you might be like, it's okay, but you just have to reinforce, hey, next time, communicate. Let me know that I was walking into this, or let me know, X, Y, and Z was happening. So I feel like for me, that's a boundary. Like communication is really big in a relationship.
That's why
Telling you, because
that was good. I should have said that one first, but that was good.
look. As a man, right? I'm happy that you said I need to know what I'm walking into, right? So that means don't go inside of Wendy's picking a fight, and don't tell me that you just told him that I'm coming in here to move some tables around, because I can't afford to be. I need to assess the situation first.
I need to know
All
what's
right,
going on beforehand.
I need to know what's going on, right?
Point me in that direction and say go. I need to know why I'm going that direction. Let me know before I get there. You know what I'm saying? That's
No, I'm just joking, y'all. I'm just joking. But I immediately thought about that Kevin Hart stand up when he was like, well, what did you do? Like, what what happened that led us here? Like, so, I just want to say, as always, right? I really enjoy you guys' conversation. I had a great time talking about boundaries with you guys. And I'm trying to be very, very mindful of you guys' time. I respect, my panelists' time, Jose and Trina, as well as the people that have taken the time out of their day to be with us and talk about boundaries. This topic, I'm going to let you guys know right now, there's going to be a part 2, right? It's going to be a part 2. But we'll do that when you guys have some more time, and you guys will see Trina and Jose again, because I'm dragging them along, right? So they're gonna be a part of part 2, right? So look out for that next week, Tuesday the 13th, right? The next topic is gonna be cancel culture, right? We live in a culture where people really think they can cancel holidays, cancel celebrities, cancel people, cancel the bodega, right? That we live in that society, right? So I can't wait to see what you guys have to say about cancel culture next week, Tuesday the 13th. If you want to be a panelist, right? It's not hard, right? Get in the DM, get in the comments. I want to be a panelist, right? Just let me know, right? It's not like a million applications you got to fill out. Just what Kim Possible said. Call me, beat me if you want to reach me. It's get up here, right? This is the People's Podcast. I want to hear from people that look just like me, just like him, just like her, right? So we're gonna talk about cancel culture next week, all right? So, Jose, do you have anything for our viewers before we get out of here?
I just want to say thank you to Trina, thank you to Trey, thank you to everyone that took their time out to come and listen and watch. I greatly appreciate it. And just thank you. You guys took the time out of your day to come here and watch us and listen to us and, just be on this amazing podcast. Trey, I love you. You know that. You're doing a great job. And, much respect and love to all the viewers.
I appreciate that, bro. I appreciate that. Trina.
Nice meeting you, Trina. Thank you. Yes. You have some great things to say.
I feel the same way. Like when I kept getting lost, I had to keep bring back to what Jose has said, because I kept he's so quiet, and it was mad good. Like, no, Trey, thank you. Many blessings, y'all. I love y'all. Like, I'm gonna see you again, Jose. So, Trey, you call me like anytime you need me to be on here. You know I'm here. I was literally in the middle of doing a paper. I came straight home. I finished most of the paper, and I'm like, all right, Trey show for like an hour. I got this. So most of my paper is done, and I'm like happy that I actually finished most of it, and I had time to come. Thank you so much. Thank you for the panelists, Natalie. Woo woo. Show me a holla, Z. I'm sorry.
Look, y'all see the love. She stopped the paper. Come on, man. Come on. Look. And Andre said, Jose, your outro speech you wrote down.
I didn't write it down. No,
he had that prepared. Look, so last but not least, I'm not gonna lie, I gotta always just throw just a little bit of it's not advertising, but just a little advertising, right? Make sure you like the page. Like the page, right? And if you didn't like the page, follow the page, subscribe. We have a YouTube channel, right? So if you decide to delete your Facebook, because that's a thing now too, right? I need a little break from social media. If you want to delete your Facebook, you can still watch us on YouTube. So subscribe on YouTube. Hit that bell. What are you waiting for? Right? What you waiting for? Subscribe, right? Also, this nice shirt, if you guys have noticed, right? Patient grind training, right? If you need something for your kid to do and you're like in the White Plains area, like a little further up, right? Patient grind training, right? They do
Wow.
basketball training, skills development, personal training, right? So even if you just need to work out, you rehabbing something, like anything of that sort, patient grind training if you're in that area. And I'm pretty sure they travel as well, right? So you can find them on Facebook, patient grind. They're on Facebook, and then you can find them on Instagram as well, patient.grind. They're there. All right. So if you need the help, if you're trying to get fit, just get with it. All right. Get with it. And thank you again, guys, for your time. And the last thing that I want to say to you guys is just don't forget that a better me equals a better we. I'll see you guys next week. It's been real. Thank you guys so much for watching.